Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Magic and Miracles 2, where we discuss all other things other than SP, which in this case is entrepreneurship, money, overall confidence, etc. Becoming the better version of yourself. This is what this channel is focused on. And you also have the link to my original channel, Magic and Miracles. That is, like I said, is dedicated to SPs. And so I'm really excited. If you need coaching, all the info is below. You need to book a 1 hour session first for us to make sure we're the right match. And actually, I just posted the audio for how to get into my coaching on my original channel. So go check that out and subscribe, of course. So I'm going to keep it brief here so that you can go check it out in full length. Okay. It's like 38 minutes long. It goes into detail of what to expect. So I'm really, really inspired. And yes, this is the hour sometimes that I stop working, 1:30 o'clock in the morning. But I'm so jazzed about this. And I just thought of this and it kind of was swirling in my mind. But anyway, so this one is called How to Turn Your Ideas into Gold. And become golden yourself, the golden Buddha yourself as a result of that. So listen, I have a long history of entrepreneurship. For myself, I have worked now for almost 14 years after quitting modeling and kind of being really fucking lost for a minute there and really depressed because I didn't know what to do. All I knew was modeling since 15. So I had to learn through experience, and this is kind of like what I'm offering you here, the shortcut, and I do recommend 2 to 3 months in my coaching, parenthesis here, for the full kind of revamp of your energy, of your life. You do need to come humble, okay? If you are to be affected by me in a positive way, and to be transported to a parallel reality where you are doing well, you don't need to be accepting the help that I'm giving you. So here's what I think one should do with their ideas today. We live in such a fascinating time. It's such a fascinating time, especially if you're in your 40s, your 50s. They don't make them like us anymore. Late 30s also, some people. The way that we've been brought up is actually really useful for social media today. So that kind of is a side note. But let's just say you have an idea of starting a business or maybe an idea for a product, whatever. An idea on its own is just an idea. So several people, in fact, can have the same idea more or less. But the difference is who is going to believe it the most? Believe it into existence, not just from the metaphysical point of view, but from the persistence point of view. And from me, I myself, I don't know where I have this from. Maybe it's just because I needed to survive in New York since I was 17. And I really needed to fucking hustle. Okay. But I have this undying energy towards anything that I decide that I will do. And I will walk through a fucking brick wall, but I will do it because that's how much I believe in it. So a person, in fact, could be more qualified than you, know more about it, but not believing in themselves and therefore not believing in the product that they present to you, or maybe not believing in that product, period, because the product is shit. Okay, and they know it, they're aware of it, nevertheless, they're going with it. So in that sense, authenticity comes into play very much so, because you can't fake belief. Okay, you can't get there by mimicking others, you can't get there by copy and pasting, you can't borrow success. Stolen genius does not stick. So whatever time that it takes you to essentially make a representation as clear as possible for your idea to make sense. Okay, it's not really like Shark Tank, but kind of. You yourself have to be convinced. Let's start with that. Okay, and understand also. And number two, okay, these are the only 2 points I would say, the most important ones. Let's just say, understand that all that it takes is you believing in it. Other people don't have to. They don't have to. They are on their own kind of, maybe journey. It's your product, it's your idea, it's your duty then to inspire others to see the same product that may have been sold to them by another person, very similar or something like it, maybe the same idea, but you come along, and because you radiate this fucking authenticity that's like dripping off of you like gold, because you spend some time on thinking about it, etc., your energy comes off totally different. It hits different. It resonates with people because you're coming from the truth. So in that sense, cultivating that belief and not just doing something just because someone else succeeded doing that. I mean, you'll see this in almost every business and almost every kind of occupation where someone just goes into that field for the reason being somebody they know or many people they know have made a good living in that field. Okay, well, it worked for them, but it's not going to work the same for you because all you're doing it, by the way, is for money. It's okay to make money. It's okay to plan on making money with this. But I have to tell you something. Expecting money out of just having an idea is not going to result in business. You're going to have to talk about it like you really understand it inside out, like you really know what you're saying to people. And that comes with some kind of, obviously, research, obviously, that you've put in the work and you are an expert at it. Okay, you're an expert at your own product, at something that you are about to create. This is the only way that you're able to sustain their interest just as much as yours, because your interest has to continue. It's very much like, I think Neville Goddard, gave this example in one of his lectures where he gives this example of Xerox, actually. And he talks about how the original creator of Xerox believed in the product so much that didn't take any salary for something crazy like 20 years or something. Okay, because and put all his money into it. And everybody thought probably he was nuts. And yet, 20 years later, they were multi-millionaires for sure. And that's, I feel like when I heard that story, I don't know, maybe like almost 10 years ago now, Neville's story about somebody else, I was like, you know what, this is the piece right here. Because, and at that moment in my own personal business, I was kind of like, I don't know, the belief was really, I was struggling with it for a second because it was just after a certain fiasco in business, not really going with my intuition. And I had to learn a lesson, and I was kind of, my belief wasn't there, sort of deal. And when I heard that story, I realized, you know what, that's what I have been not doing. I'm playing it safe. I don't really believe in what I'm creating right now. And I'm doing that stupid thing that shouldn't be done, kind of deal. I'm not going with my intuition. I'm doing something that I don't believe in. And I'm going to spend my time on planet Earth doing something. So it might as well be something I believe in. And in that moment, I realized it's not about the time that it takes you. Today, we live in a different world. Everything is, so speedy and so accessible and everything like that. You're not going to have to wait 20 years. But the fact that he was willing to do that because of the payout at the end of this experience, that kind of tunnel vision and dedication but that only can happen. The success at the end can only happen, in my opinion, if you believe in the product to begin with. So it's twofold, right? Investing in something you don't believe in obviously is ridiculous, and it works because you do believe in it. So now it's obvious that I would probably advise you, or maybe it's not obvious to you, but when you have your gold ideas, you should protect them somehow. So it's surprising how many people don't think about these things. I've had to encounter that more than once in fashion. And that was part of my education. Something always needs to be on paper. I don't care if it's your relative. Parenthesis here, I don't advise to go into business with any friend or anybody like that. That's another one. I think you should really learn to be on your own and learn what you're doing, without relying on anybody else. Only this way you can delegate. But everything needs to be on paper, and everything needs to be registered, and everything needs to be kind of documented. There is no trusting anybody when it comes to ideas. Okay, most people don't invest belief or effort, or don't investigate if they even have any ideas, and they feel like it's their job to go ahead and copy somebody else because it worked for other people. Well, like I said, stolen genius doesn't stick. It'll never work for that person, and they'll be frustrated. But to protect yourself against such individuals that are completely misguided, you need some paperwork, and you can't avoid that. And I've had a few instances like this where there was an idea and I brought it in front of a very big client, let's just say, to do it together. I didn't really, it was in the beginning of my fashion career, shall we say, and I did not put it on paper because I was green and did not know. And they ended up doing it without me. Okay, thanks so much for the idea. So things like that, when you're like, don't be intimidated to ask for certain things, because you should believe in your ideas and you should invest this extra effort of, excuse me, I'm going to respect what I have here. Especially if you're going to invest time in research and how it's done and all of that, and maybe producing the prototypes and all that kind of jazz. That your genius is not for free, and you should be excited as shit about protecting it. I don't care if you think it's not necessary, it's necessary. Okay, I'm gonna tell you this right now that it happened to me in the literally sense as well. It's necessary. Just don't waste the time in thinking somebody's going to change their position or it's going to work out. No, it's not going to work out. You're just going to protect your empire, in the most kind of aggressive ways, shall we say, as possible, because this is your genius. This is your gold, okay? And we don't play with your gold. That's your self-esteem, that's your self-confidence, and that's your self-love. This is your creation, and this is how serious and vital it is for you to invest in your ideas, because it brings up the level of frequency that you operate on. When you have this respect, when you really are believing in yourself and you will see there's a monumental difference between, again, a person who is talking about something complete. I mean, there's no emotion there. There's no interest whatsoever. They're devoid of any emotion or any enthusiasm. And the person who's, I mean, they could be talking about selling ice, but they're saying it with such enthusiasm. It's contagious. And they have their own way of doing it and whatever, whatever, whatever. But chances are you're not selling ice unless you are, which whatever, there you go. But maybe you're selling something a little more specific to your field, And so the only reason, in my opinion, someone, parenthesis here, should do the research on the market is obvious. I think if it's not obvious, again, it's obvious to me, is because the way I think is, what's everybody not doing? That's the way my brain thinks anyway. So if you're going to be one of those pioneers with ideas and with contribution to the society, right? I think that repeating other people is kind of like, I don't know, not exactly my type of thinking. Why do that when you can be authentic and actually do what you're supposed to do in this lifetime? So, but as a pioneer, you're supposed to advance and present something that is needed out there. To repeat after other people is to do nothing. You're just being ridiculous. So looking at what is actually necessary, what is everybody missing, is the way to look at these ideas. And of course, for an educated person in that field, it will be obvious, but maybe you're not thinking in these terms. So in that sense, when, like, for example, in my coaching, people tell me, again, these days technology is crazy, as you know. So when people tell me, I really want to manifest this money, or I really want to manifest this job, and this position, and and applications, and to me, the way my mind thinks, again, this is such an obsolete way of thinking, because if you want to create something, meaning if you want to create a position for yourself, a job, so to speak, where you earn money, these days it's up to you. And the more unique you are, the more it will speak to the audience, and the more it will benefit the world and you. It's like everybody wins in this equation when you become completely authentic, and when you start believing in it, when you start really seeing the ripple effect of how you present yourself to the world now, in what kind of capacity, in the capacity of a golden Buddha who believes in their ideas, doesn't let them collect dust, okay, for no fucking reason. When you can be walking around, making millions of dollars, let's just say. So if you're thinking of, my ideas are nonsense, and, I better get this job, that shows your level of consciousness right now. That's your level of the amount of money you make is your level of consciousness, kind of deal. And lastly, but certainly not least, I spoke already about really advising against going into business with friends or relatives. Big no, okay? Just don't do it. It's not worth it. Okay, just really understand you need to position yourself strong in the business. And if ever such a time comes where you have a partner, there needs to be a bulletproof contract, okay, where you're taken care of, and it goes hand in hand with paperwork. You really do need to get rid of people who don't believe in you, who are jealous of you, who's going to be like a negative energy, you know? Because it's just inevitable. When you start leveling up, when you start really believing in yourself, this happened to me several times over. I'm really used to it. At first it was a little shocking. Excuse me. It was when I first started creating fashion designs, and most of my friends completely I mean, nothing short of really abandoned me, and when they did, there was no resonance anymore between like the stuff that they chose to speak about and the reaction essentially that they had towards me now really taking interest in upgrading myself, really taking it, no longer being that loser, crying in the corner over another fucking dysfunctional boyfriend. you know uh, they were really, really comfortable seeing me this way. And in that sense, like, I can't really blame them, because I obviously rendezvoused with them on that frequency, and that's the only kind of situation they're capable of. And, you know, I was so disenchanted with them that in no shape or form did I want to create another version. Listen, parenthesis here. Creating another version of a person sometimes is not the answer. Because there are some karmic lessons to be learned, and also, sometimes that person's energy just doesn't resonate so much that personally I just don't even want to kind of sally my hands, my vibrational hands. But so that was very much the case. I felt really strong negativity suddenly. It was almost like overnight. When I started meditating, I started leveling up, and it was almost overnight, like within a month or so, my energy was vastly different. So be prepared for that. I had this guy I was seeing. This is also the reason why you really should surround yourself with people. If you have no friends after deciding to proceed with your golden idea, that's okay. You're on the right track. You're just gonna meet new fucking friends who are going to be supportive of you and inspire you to do even bigger. Okay, I had this guy came to mind the other day when I was kind of casually dating right after separating with my second husband, and I wouldn't say I was struggling, but it was a very icky moment of, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this. I didn't really have any guidance, as I said. So I was just starting out. It was my kind of like second year, third year in business, and I was having a down year or something, 6 months, whatever it was. And he was sitting with me. He took me to an expensive restaurant to cheer me up. And then he goes, well, maybe your ideas aren't any good, babes. And I was like, oh my God, that was the last time I saw him. Okay. Because you see, I believed in my ideas. I just didn't have the guidance, the practical guidance of how to make literal cash out of them. Okay. And in my coaching, I share and I guide everybody, whether you come in for business or for a speed, truly doesn't matter. I mean, it does, because I tailor, custom make the coaching for you for that necessity that you have. But I do cover your entire life. And so this we can go over in coaching step by step. But essentially, you really do need to take yourself seriously, a lot more seriously than you do today. And you need to take your ideas seriously. And understand that just some guidance is really just given to you from above to act on, to take an action in 3D. Yeah. It's not going to produce itself, darling. Newsflash, you live in 3D. Some action is absolutely necessary. You can just like create a company sitting on a fucking couch, all right? But that you need to approach it with, this is it, I'm doing this. This is gold, this is going to work out. It's going to take maybe some variations, some different incarnations, but I'm going to see it through and I'm going to succeed. And you know, part of like the whole journey in business, I feel like, as I've mentioned from the story of the person from Xerox, the person from Xerox, the founder of Xerox, the staying in the race. Just if you just stay in the race long enough and you learn enough what I'm giving you and other things, etc., you know, if you're passionate about it, like I said, and if you authentically believe in it and it's in your heart to do this, you will be successful. I don't care what you say right now. I don't care how unbelievable it seems to you. You will live out that quote unquote fantasy of seeing that into fruition. And it's not going to be this earth-shaking moment. It's just going to be business as usual. You're just going to live out your quote unquote fantasy, so to speak. Thank you very much for listening. All the information from me again is below. Until next time. Ciao, ciao.